Good afternoon, everyone. I just want to take a minute to welcome everybody to the Nectari training, the first of several Nectari training sessions that we'll be offering over the next couple of weeks. For those of you who don't know me, I should start by introducing myself. My name is Olivia Brown, and I work as an account executive and in business development for Nectari and Sage Enterprise Intelligence product in North America. So again, welcome to those of you who I know, to those of you who I don't know. We're very, very happy to have you attending this training. As Sage Enterprise Intelligence, we mean Nectari, of course, so don't be alarmed. But again, we just want to thank you for taking your time. We know that things have been not very normal over the last few months. Obviously, we're not able to travel to events and connect with you guys in person. So we really wanted to offer these sessions first to give you something to do for those of you who are working from home and looking to gain some more Nectari knowledge, but also to be able to connect with you, of course, our customers during these very interesting times, and really just make sure that we're keeping in contact, we're keeping connected, and you guys are also getting up to speed on the latest and greatest. For those of you who don't know, we have released version 9 of Nectari. It's been several months now. For those of you who are already on version 9, great. If you're not, no problem. Hopefully these sessions will convince you that it might be a good time to upgrade, because as you'll see, Nectari version 9 is leaps forward in terms of some of the new features and modules that it is offering. So very excited for you all to see that. And again, just welcome to everybody. I won't take up any more of your time. I just wanted to come on here and say hello, wishing everybody the best. And I hope that you all really enjoy and get a lot out of the next couple weeks free training sessions. So on that note, Gerardo will be starting the training today. We'll be doing a mix and match. So you'll have 3 trainers throughout the sessions for those of you who attend them all. We have Gerardo, Edgardo, and Jean-Guy. So you'll be seeing some different names, all excellent trainers. So you're in very good hands with all 3 of them. So enjoy the training and take care, everybody. We'll talk again very soon. All right, Gerardo, passing you over the reins.
Thank you very much, Olivia. Very nice presentation. Thanks. And well, so let's see the next slide. Welcome everyone. So I'm happy to give you this first part of the training. So I am Gerardo Cruz Sanchez. I'm working in the Tangerine Software Service Department. So it's me, one person in the staff for you to give you the services related with the Nectari. So welcome. So we have one session, 2 hours. So basically, in my experience, it's a good idea to do a small break. Every hour, we are going to do a small break, 5 minutes, only to walk a little bit or something like that. And we are going to continue. So it's a very, very quick break before to continue with the next material. Okay, so this is the welcome. Next, to continue with the next slide. So for today, this is the agenda. We are going to introduce a little bit the BI concept. Maybe in my experience, sometimes there are new people in the BI context. So for many people, it's the first time checking the BI context, the BI technologies, the BI tools. So we are going to do a quick introduction. Don't worry, even if you already have experience or even if you are brand new by using the BI concept or the BI tools. So we are going to include all the people in this interesting training. So we are going to talk about Nectari, obviously, that's the idea, this is our product. And well, we are going to see the components contained in Nectari. You are going to see it's very, very interesting. And in the details, we are going to see the worksheets. The idea is to show you how you can take advantage about the worksheet that we have created for you. For example, you are going to see by starting with the Nectari application, even the first day, you are going to be able to identify a lot of very interesting information about your business. So that's the idea, to show you how you can start even in the first day to take advantage about this very nice tool. Charts are always very, very interesting because we are going to see exactly the same information by using a graphical representation. This is a very, very nice feature that we are going to see. And in the last part, we are going to put all together. To do that, we are using dashboards. So basically, by example, if you need to get in one shot and one screenshot all the information about your business, the sales, the financial, or whatever other model that you need to see, well, we can put all that together inside a dashboard, and that is going to give you in one view all the perception about your business. So that's the idea by using the dashboards. Okay, after that, let's continue. It's the time to jump to the application. So I am going to open this one. This is my screen. So I am changing the screen. Let me close this. Okay, so here we are. If you are brand new by using the application, well, you need to know that basically we are using a web page. This is a HTML5 based, so therefore we can use the most popular browsers to see the application. Basically, it's an application that you can see in almost all the devices that you can use right now. So basically, when we are opening the browser, we need to put here, as you can see, my cursor here at the beginning is the server name, and after 2 points and the port 81. Obviously, when we are installing, we can put it in a different port, but by default, we are using the port 81. And by using that, so you are going to be able to get this screen to do the login. So it's very easy. Even, well, I am going to show you a few minutes later, even if you're using your smartphone, your tablet, so you are going to be able to use the application in a very similar idea as we can do it here in the web presentation. Oh, okay, so this is the first screen. Even here in the first screen, we have functionality. What does it mean? Well, by example, in the first section, as you can see here, we have one drop-down list. In this, we have the language because, well, as you can imagine, right now, well, in the world, we are going to deploy the application in several language. For example, if your business partner is in Germany or in Spain or in another country, in China, for example, so the idea is to provide the application in the correct language for the other people in the other side of the world. So therefore, here you are going to find around 7 or 8 languages. More languages are coming, and the idea is to give for that people, for that user, the application in the correct language. So in our case, we are going to use the English language. After that, here we have, by example, the login. This is called the central point. But what does it mean, the central point? I am brand new. What are you talking about? Well, in this case, so far we can explain that the central point is basically the version that you are using for your Sage. For example, maybe in my enterprise, I am using Sage 100, 200, 500, X3. So in that case, by using the same Nectari application, I can connect to different Sage versions to be able to bring the data in my screens. So in that case, I am going to use this one, and you are going to start to see the difference. In your case, well, maybe you are going to have only one central point, but some customers are using several of them. So therefore, this is the point to select which version of my Sage I am going to work in this case. Okay, this is about the login and the central point that we are going to use. After that, here we have the domain name, username, and password. Well, those fields are very popular in the application when we are going to do the login. But in this case, in the Nectari context, we can offer the domain name to login in the application. But what does it mean? Well, in that case, we have here in the Nectari application 2 modalities to login in the application. For example, every user is going to have an account and a password. This is very popular. It's basically are the credentials to login in the applications. But the first option that we have here is about the domain name. What does it mean? Well, all the people defined in my network, in my Active Directory, the list of the users, can we define it like a Nectari user? In the first part, this is the first point that we need to do. Okay, so I am going to use my domain name to bring all the users defined in my Active Directory. And after, in the second part, I am going to assign the permissions, the restrictions, the modules, and so on. So basically, that's the main difference. When we are using the domain name, we are going to use the list defined in the Active Directory. Okay, but what happens if I don't want to give access for all the people in my network in the Nectari application? So we have another schema. So we can define directly here in the application the user and password. And after the user is going to receive by email the account and the password to be able to log in the application. What does it mean? Well, the user is going to have one account to log in the normal environment every day, and that people is going to have another account and password to log in the Nectari environment. In the first schema, if we are using the Active Directory, what does it mean? Well, the same user and password defined in the network is exactly the same password that they are going to use to log in the Nectari application. If I don't want to do that, okay, so in that case, we are going to use the second schema to create the users and password here in the Nectari context. So in that case, as I told you, that user is going to have two accounts, the account to log in the Windows every morning, and the account to log in the Nectari application. So that's the main difference. In the next sessions, you are going to learn a lot of points about the security. So in that case, you are going to identify how can I use the domain name, or how can I use the second schema to create the user and password for my selected users where I need to assign the permissions. Okay, so in that case, I am going to use the second schema. It means it's a user created inside the application to log in inside. Okay, so keep me sign in if I need to come back and log in again. And here we are going to use the login button. Okay, so here we are. After the credentials, this is it's the first screen that you are going to find when we are logging in the application. By example, well, we are going to take a few minutes to explain you the context. Obviously, if you already have experience by using version 8 or version 7, well, this screen is very familiar for you. But if you are brand new, don't worry. I am going to take a few minutes to explain the context about this screen. This is the main screen that we are going to find when we are logging in the application. And here we have several sections. In this vertical menu bar, we have the section for the objects. For example, this is the current one that we are using. This is related with the models and views. But what does it mean, the model and the views? Well, basically, when we are talking about the model, it's about the business model. So based in the ERP tables, by example, the sales, the invoices, the financial tables. So here we are going to create the model, and after we are going to be able to retrieve the data to put it in a view. This is the first approach. We are going to see the details. Don't worry about that. So this is the first section. This is related with the data model and the views. As you can see here, we have several folders. What does it mean? Well, in that case, this basically in this ERP, and by the way, my case is X3, which is one of the most popular ERPs that we are using, but we can see Sage 100, 200, 500, etc. So in that case, I am using in the backend X3 Sage type. Well, in that case, we are using several modules. We are going to have several modules when we are logging in the application. Why? Because depending of your ERP, you are going to have different models. For example, for Sage 100 or Sage 200 or 300, there are different models. So that's the difference that you are going to find if you are logging in ERP based in X3 or ERP based in the Sage 100. In my case, it's X3. So this is the set of modules that you are going to find. Additionally, we are going to take advantage to introduce you this new model. This is the universal data model you are going to see. This is very, very practical because the idea is to have one point in common between the Sage ERPs. So it doesn't matter if I am using X3 or Sage 100 or 200. So the idea is to use this model because, well, we have a common point that we can use to get the information. So I am going to introduce you this one. Okay, this is the section related with the data models and views, but we have another section here. This is related with the dashboards. What does it mean, the dashboard? Basically, it's like a panel where we can put many information together. So, for example, let me try to open this one to give you quickly the idea about the dashboards. So when we are working with dashboard, as I told you, is the idea is to put several elements inside together to show you the data in one in screenshot. So in that case, for example, here, as you can see, we have many information together about my business. It could be sales, financials, or whatever other model that I need to put. Here we can consolidate many information together, and this is very nice to check it because I have the information in one shot, in one screen. This is another object that we are going to see today. This is related with the dashboards. Another section here, the third one in the vertical menu bar, this is related with the reports. By default, as I told you, so when we are installing the product in the template, what does it mean the template? The set of modules that you are going to see here in this screen. We have the reports. By default, we are creating the most popular reports for the companies. For example, the income statement, the trial balance, the balance sheet, by example, for these financial models, or for example, for the universal data model, as I told you, this is a new model that we are introducing. Here we are going to put more and more reports. That's the idea. So therefore, as I told you, even starting in the first day, you are going to be able to get very interesting information about your business. Okay, this is related about the reports. This is the third type of component that we are going to see in this training. In the last section is about the favorites. This is a section for the shortcuts. By example, if today or if this week I am going to work with the same view or with the same report, so I can put my shortcut in this section related with my dashboard or with my view, and well, I can come back here and open it directly. I am going to show you in a few minutes how we can use this interesting section. This is related about the vertical menu bar that we have here. At the beginning, when we are installing the product, it's like that. Nothing is available. So therefore, when we are installing with the customers, okay, we need to identify the type of ERP that you are using, because based in that ERP, so we need to incorporate the template. It means the set of models, views, and reports prepared for that ERP. So in that case, when we are installing the product, we are going to incorporate, in my case, the template for the X3 type for the ERP. Okay, this is related with this menu that we are going to use. We are going to see with more details all the folders containing, well, not all the folders, but you are going to see the models and the views that we have by default in this case. Okay, this is about this section. I need to take a few minutes more to explain you in the right side, because here we have another functionality that you need to identify. At least the first time when you are logging in the application, it's a good idea to come here, because here you need to define some values that are going to be used in the application. For you, if you are not familiar, well, in that case, as you can see here in this screen, in this point, here is my cursor. This is related with the data source, with the environment we are retrieving the data. In my case, here I am reading a database X3B11. What does it mean? Well, this is the point where I am going to retrieve the data coming from my ERP. It means all the data contained in is going to be available for me to put it in the views, in the reports, and so on. So this is an important point, because in some cases, the customers are using 2 or 3 environments for the QA, for the test, pre-production, or production. So therefore, in some cases, you are going to find here a drop-down list to select the correct environment that we are going to use to put it, to retrieve the data and put the data in the graphical representation for the views or for the charts. Okay, just about the point where I am going to retrieve my data. After that, we have the icon for the user. In my case, where I'm logging like administrator, but in your case, you are going to find the similar icon. And here the important point is the first section, the profile. Why this is important? Because here we have several settings that we need to define properly. It's not complicated, you are going to see, but it's a good idea. Always the first time when we are logging in the application, it's a good idea to come here to verify that I'm using the correct values. For example, in the profile, we have the general section, culture, opening parameters. What does it mean? So let's take a few minutes to talk about this section. For example, every time when you are logging in the application, well, remember that user is now defined in the Nectari context. Even if we are using the Active Directory, what does it mean? Well, we are going to use exactly the same account email defined for that people. So the account that you are going to see is coming from the Active Directory definition, Or if you are using the second schema, so you are going to be able to define your account, your email account that you want to use for the Nectari message or for the Nectari distribution. And well, you need to verify that here you are using the correct email as you need it. So this is the first point to verify. After that, for example, here we have, well, the selection page override. I am going to explain you later this section because, well, we need to introduce the concept about the selection page. After that, here we have the, let me see here, the default export, the format. Well, basically, when we are opening a view, a dashboard, we have the capability to distribute the document. So imagine that I am going to check a report or worksheet, so I can export that the content or the image for that view by using several formats: the PDF, the Excel, 32 or 64 bits, CSV. This is a Excel format. Are values separated by commas, or maybe the HTML or the XML or an image. So in that case, this is a default. Every time when I'm trying to export the content of my view or my worksheet, is going to take this format by default. Obviously, in that moment when it's going to be sent, I have the possibility to change to a different format if I need it. If not, by default, it's going to send me the PDF document for the view that I am sending in that moment. After that, this is related with the first day of the week. This is important because when we are using the distribution, what does it mean, the distribution, by the way? Well, the distribution is the task to send my document to different people. For example, for the sales, for the financial team, I can distribute my view or my report. Well, in that case, we are going to use the scheduler, and this option is very important because based in this option is the first day that we are going to use in the scheduler section. So it's only to verify that we are using the correct date in that situation. It's enough. It's not necessary to do something else. After that, in the culture section, well, here we have the content, language content. What does it mean? Well, basically, if you remember, when we are logging in the application, the first drop-down list that we have here is about the language. Okay, but now we have two languages. Yes, in that case, the first icon, the first drop-down list that we can find in the login screen is about the application. For example, the names that we have here, the labels can be in one language, but maybe I need to use a different language for the content. For example, for the folders, for the views, I need to use it in a different language. Is that normal? Well, at least here in our case, yes, because here we have two languages in Montreal. So many people are using, by example, the application. All the labels for the application are in English, but the content is going to be in French. So it's very normal to find many users doing something like that. The application is in one language and the content, it could be in a different language. This is very normal for us. So in your case, or many cases, maybe they are going to use the same language for the application and for the content. But if you want to use a different language for the content, what does it mean? The folders, the views, and the objects contain it in, so we can change a different language if you need it. In our case, well, we are going to use English, the culture English. Well, this is only to put the difference. It could be English from the UK, from the United States, or Canada. There's not a problem. It's not a issue. So I can select another one. There's no difference. The format, this is important because this is the format that we are going to use to identify the dates. In that case, is year, month, day. You can select another one if you need it. So here we have the most popular formats for the date. For the time is the same, hours and minutes. If you need it, it's here. After that, this section, opening parameters. What does it mean? Parameters sounds like we are going to do the programming, but no. In that case, it's not about the programming. So basically, it's related with the section that we are going to see, or by example, the section that I need to see when I am logging in the application. If you remember, in the left side, in this vertical menu bar, we have the model section, the dashboard section, for example, or the report section. Imagine that this week I am going to work with the reports. In that case, I can select that every time when I am logging in my application, I want to go directly in the reports section. So in that case, I can select this one, or maybe I am going to work with the dashboard this week, so I can select this option, and every time when I am logging in the application, it's going to send me directly in the dashboard section. It's up to you, depending on your preference, so you can select or not. It's not a problem. It's not difficult to use it. After that, cache management. Well, as you can imagine, every time when we are opening a view, basically, you need to keep in mind that we are asking for the data in the backend. What does it mean, the backend? The database. Obviously, all the tables are contained in a database. So therefore, every time when I am opening a view and checking the numbers and so on, we are asking the backend, it means the server, to send me the data. So therefore, in some cases, if I am working with the same view or with the same report many times in the day, during the day, so I am asking for more and more and more data. Basically, when we are closing that view, well, all data is going to be eliminated from the computer's memory. If not, I can do it manually. As I told you, in some cases, we can do that manually, but basically it's going to be done automatically by the application when we are closing the view or the report or the dashboard. So you can do it manually if you need it, but if not, don't worry, the application is going to do it for you. Notifications. What about the notification? What does it mean, the notifications? Basically, imagine that I'm going to create a report or a dashboard. I am starting the job, but after me, it's another people. Maybe my colleague is going to continue with that job, or maybe they need to verify something else in my view or in my report. So the idea, when I am sharing my view on my report with other people, we need to notify that this report or this dashboard is now available for the other people. So they are going to be able to open the view and verify the job, by example. Well, to identify, well, to send the notification, we have two options here in the Nectari context. We have the application, this one, or the email. But what about the application? Which application and which email? So in that case, when we are using this option, the application option, what does it mean? Well, I am going to select it here. And for example, if my colleague is going to send me or is going to modify a view or a report that I need to check, so every time when I am logging in the application, coming here in this corner, in this small bell icon, so opening here, I am going to find the notifications for me. For example, this report or this view or this dashboard is ready for you. You can start to work with. Okay, so in this small list, I am going to identify the notifications sent to me. That's the idea. This is the first method that we can use to notify something else that the report or the view is ready to be verified, for example. The next option is about the email. What does it mean, the email? Oh, in that case, remember, every time when we are logging, by default, we are going to use my email. The email could be the normal email that I'm using to log in the network, well, defined in the SMTP server in my IT department, or a different email. So in that case, what does it mean? The email address defined here is the email that we are going to use here to send you the notification. So for example, here in the profile, so yes, send me the notifications in both modalities. Send me the notification by the application. Remember, every time when I am logging in the Nectari application, we are going to see the list of elements for me. And the second mode is about the email. What does it mean? I am going to receive an email in my account to indicate me, okay, now that person is giving you the control for that view or for that dashboard, and that's the idea. So in my case, well, I like to use both the application. Every time when we are logging in the application, we are going to see the list, or even the email that is going to send me an email every time when my colleague is sending me the view, or to inform that the view is ready for me. So this is about this small section. So it's a good idea when you are starting, when you are logging for the first time to do the profile settings. It's not complicated, but it's only to verify that we are using the correct values. After that, well, we have this option. This is only for the administrators, so don't worry about that. Or maybe if some of you are going to be administrators, in the next days, you are going to see here we have many, many options for the administrators. There are many powerful tools that we can use in that section. After that, well, this is the bell, the small icon for the notifications. We already know how to use it. And the last one is a new, well, it's a new presentation, a new tool, but the concept is the same. It's related with the help. So by example, by doing click here, we can see about the online documentation. For example, now it's based in a server. So by example, you can use this one. You can copy. I am going to open a new, and let's to put it here in my browser. So it's not necessary to have the Nectari application opened to be able to see the online help. So this is a very brand new online help. It's very, very practical. There are many interesting topics for you. You are going to administrate, or if you are going to work like a final user, or by example, if you did have questions, or there are many, many interesting points to do the upgrades. So my recommendation for you, if you have a few minutes to verify all the documentation that we have for you, is going to give you a very nice experience. By example, if I need to learn how to sort, how to create a view, so here you are going to find additional documentation that you can consult, that you can see at any time. As I told you, you can use it standalone. It's not necessary to use, it's not necessary to have the Nectari application installed in my PC to be able to see all the topics that I need to know. Okay, this is about, well, the presentation, the look and feel is very, very different from the version 7 and version 8. This is the version 9 help, and well, you are going to find many, many interesting points. If you have time, my recommendation, yes, take a few minutes to explore the content of the this interesting help. Okay, so this is about the base knowledge. Oh, sorry, let me try to open here. My application is, sorry, I am going to open again. Oh, sorry, I closed my my application. Here we are. I am going to use my user and password to log in the application. Okay. As you can see here, I am not using the domain name. What does it mean? I am using the second schema. It means the administrator created for me an account based on email, and using that email, I am going to receive my password to log in the application. Okay, it's enough. It's only a little bit to explain the context that we have here in the first screen when we are logging the application. Now, why it is important to understand the application? Because the idea is to identify what's going on, what's happening in my business related with the financial points, or the sales, or the production, or the inventory. So the idea is to take the screenshot of your business to give you all the information that you are looking for to take decisions. That's the idea when we are using this kind of BI tools to identify the state of my business for that section right now. And well, based on that, I am going to take the decision for my business. Well, this is about the BI. About Nectari, well, when we are using Nectari, basically we are reading your database. We are not creating data for your ERP tables. Basically, we are reading all the data contained in, and we are going to put it in very nice worksheet, reports, or dashboards. That's the important point. So, because, well, in some cases there are questions, can I modify the data, or can I not modify it or not? So basically, we are reading the data in the 99% of the cases. Now, let's see about the models. If you are brand new, well, all the models are new for you. If you already have experience by using version 8, so this model maybe is new for you. In that case, so we are going to verify here, for example, this universal data model is new, but now we are incorporating more modules, more folders. At the beginning, only the financial was existing, but now we have for sales, for inventory, and well, more UDMs are coming. But what does it mean, the UDM? Well, basically, we are using this model like a common point between the ERPs. So by example, if I am using Sage 100, 200, or X3, so okay, you are going to have the basic models, all the models contained here, and we can install that model, the universal data model, because here we have more views, more models, more dashboard, more KPIs based in your normal models to give you more information about your business. So it's not mandatory to have the universal data model, but it's a very good idea because here we are incorporating more functionality, more KPIs, and more reports for you. And well, this is a very nice model that you can explore right now. After that, so as I told you, depending on your ERP type, you are going to find different models. But if you are using the universal data model, the models that you are going to see are going to be the same. This is the starting point. We are going to have a common starting point to talk about the Nectari application. Why this is important? Because in some cases, well, when we are doing the training, so for the team, maybe the team is using X3 or Sage 100, 200, 500. So as you can see, there are several ERP types. So therefore, we are using this new module, Universal Data Model, to give you the training. So you are going to identify that it's very easy to use it, and well, it's going to be easy to understand. Okay, this is related with the universal data model. So let's to open by example the sales. So let's to verify, because well, the sales are very common in the business. That's the main idea. And here by example, every time when you are opening the folder, you are going to find this kind of icons. Inside this icon, this is like another folder, you are going to find objects. But what does it mean? Well, as I told you, in this case, this is called the template, the set of modules, the set of models that you are going to find in the application, and the views, the reports, and the dashboard. So the idea is to provide you even the first date with interesting information about your business. So once when the product is ready to be used, so you can come here by using your login and password and start to verify what's happening with your business in this case. So by example, let's open by example this view. And after we are going to show, I am going to show you how you can create it. Basically, we are using this to see the sales, bulk sales represent ID. So by example, here we have Emiliano, Irene, Chrome, Hans, and all the people, all the commercial people defined in this enterprise, so are going to be here. And we can see the customer ID, by example, by expanding every level. So we are going to be able to see all the details. So basically, when we are using a view, we have to identify the following elements. By example, as you can see in the first section, we have the groups. What does it mean, the groups? This is how we are going to retrieve the first level for the data. So in that case, all the records are firstly grouped by sales ID rep. So that's the idea. So this is the first level that we are using for grouping the data. After that, we have the pivots. I am going to explain you in a few minutes how we can use the pivots. And here we have the columns. What does it mean, the columns? Basically, we are going to use this section to put the measures. This is another important point. Here in the BI context, we have two types of fields. Basically, are big two types. The first one is related with the dimensions, and the second one are the measures. But what does it mean? We're talking about the dimensions. Well, the dimension is, for example, a field that we can use to group the data. In that case, my first dimension in this case is the sales representative ID. This is one field that we are going to use to group my data in this screen. This is called a dimension. By example, another type of dimension is about the year. So for example, here in the right vertical menu bar, I am going to include another dimension. For example, I want to group by year. So I am going to use this one to put it here in the groups level in the first position. Okay, it's here. What's happening here, as you can see, the look and feel is very different. Why? Because now I am grouping only by the calendar years. So in that case, what does it mean? The application is asking to the server, okay, send me the data, but now we need to group it by fiscal year because, well, the calendar year, because this is the first level for the grouping that we are defining here. Once, by example, by clicking here in this level, we are going to expand this level to the next one. This is the second dimension. This is related with the sales rep ID. This is the second dimension. So we are using the first dimension, the year. Inside that dimension, we are going to group the second one. This is the sales representative ID. That's good. That's perfect. So by example, after that, we can, well, I am going to explain you the pivots. Wait a second. And here we have in the columns, for example, trying to expand the detail. Here we can see the details, for example, for the customer ID, the customer name, the product ID, the product name, and here we have the measures. This is another difference. Remember, the first type of field is related with the dimensions, and the second one are the measures. The measures basically are amounts. Quantities, for example, maybe it's representing money, so, or maybe the quantity of products that we are selling. So this is basically this is a measure. So therefore, the criteria to identify if I need to use a dimension or a measure is related with the concept about that field. For example, here, as you can see, the invoice cost and the invoice amount basically are numbers. Okay. It means that I can create a dimension based in the years. Yes, but even in the year, even if this is a number, is not a measure. Why? Because we are not applying arithmetical operations in years. For example, here we are going to accumulate the value for the invoices. We are going to accumulate the value for the quantity products, sold products in that case. But it's not making sense to add operations for the year. We are not getting the average, the maximum, the minimum about the years. No. Even if the year is a number, it's used like a dimension too, because, well, the idea is to group the records based in that concept by year and after by sales represent ID. That's the main difference that we need to identify when we are trying to use dimensions or measures in the report. Okay, this is about this section. Basically, for example, here we have the groups. We are using two levels to group the data. And after, in the third line, we have the columns. As you can see here, the years to 2017, 18, and 19 are like a line to be expanded. And after, I can see the details. So, but what happened if I need to compare, for example, year by year, side by side, what's happening in the business? So in that case, for example, I am going to do drag and drop this value to put it here in the pivot section. What's happening here? Well, basically the information is the same, but we are using a different representation. So as you can see here, we have a big column for this year, the 2017, and inside this column, we have here the invoice quantity, the invoice cost, and the invoice amount in a similar representation for the 2018 and the 2019. So it means we are using a big column, call it the pivot, to be able to present the information in this arrangement. So it's a different way to do it. So in some cases, you are going to use this presentation, or in some cases, you are going to use the normal presentation without the pivots. Or both are basically the same data, but we are using a different distribution to put it in your presentation. By the way, by example, coming back here, in the pivots, as you can see, well, we are using this space, but at the end, it's not possible to see the last column. So what can I do? So here we have several options. In the first case, we can close this section. Here, as you can see, the tree, when we can see the models and the views, we can close this section. I am here in the second option in my vertical menu bar. So by doing click here, I have more space for my report. That's good because in that case, I can see all the details about the numbers that we are looking for. Another option is contained here in the right vertical menu bar. Here we have the worksheet properties you are going to see. Here, by example, in the general section, I can identify and to fit all the columns by using the space for every column, and I can use this option, this switch, to be able to use all the space contained in my screen. So this is very nice because even if I try to do something like that, the application is trying to fix the size for the fields. And well, that's the idea, to be able to see all the columns. Okay, so let's take this space like that. This is another option by example. And as you can see here, it's very easy for me to identify by using this pivot, the amounts, and I can compare by side the different years contained in this report. This is the effect when we are using the pivots. So you are going to see, you are going to practice, I hope, in your cases, and it's very easy to use it. Okay, after that, let's to see other very important elements that we can see here. This is the first section related with the groups, the pivots, and the columns. The second section is related with the body about the report that we are creating. In the last section here in the bottom of my screen, my cursor is here, we have the filters. What does it mean, the filters? Well, basically when we are reading the data, in some cases, for example, I need to filter for the past year. I want to see the information only for the past year. I don't want to see, it's not necessary for me to see the 2017 or 2018. I want to see only the data for the 2019. So in that case, I need to filter. So to do that, here we have several interesting options. By example, the first one, I am going to click here in this option. And here we have a context menu, horizontal menu bar. So here we have several icons. In that case, I am going to use this one to exclude this value from this view. So by doing that, click here, it's going to filter to avoid that year. And as you can see here in the bottom of my screen, the application is going to show me the filter that we are using right now. Okay, so it's going to retrieve the data, but it's going to exclude the data for this year, the 2017. Okay, perfect. So I need to eliminate as well the 2018. So I am going to eliminate it for the screen. Obviously, the data remains in the database. So I am going to exclude only this year in my screen. And every time when we are doing something like that, is going to indicate that we are using the filter to retrieve the records. So in that case, we have only the 2019. So every time when we are doing something like that, we are going to get the new filter that we are using in this section. So what happened if I need to come back the previous years in my report? So we can come here in this context. We have the X. We are going to eliminate this filter. And now we are going to be able to see again the 2018. I want to eliminate this filter and give me all the years available in my enterprise. So here we have all the years in the database. So this is a very easy way to filter, but obviously we have others. I am going to explain you. Another important point, this is a new feature in version 9. As you can see here, every time when we are moving the groups, or when we are moving the measures, well, as you can see, the application is going to recalculate based in the new presentation that we are asking. So for example, I am going to modify this and it's going to recalculate. This is very nice because it's very practical to change it, but in some cases, maybe I am creating more traffic in the network. What does it mean? Well, I am creating a new view, but I am defining my layout. So every time when I am changing the column here, it's going to calculate and again and again and again. It's fine, but it's not good for the traffic. Why? Because, well, this is maybe not my last layout. I need to modify it again and again. So in that case, my recommendation for you is to block to create that traffic. So for example, here in this, in the right side, this vertical menu bar, the last option, this is toggle. This is used to avoid to ask again and again every time when we are moving the dimensions or the measures in my layout to avoid to create more traffic. Why? Because I know that I'm going to put here fiercely because I am testing. And after I am going to modify to put it here, the invoice quantity in this side. And after I want to see, for example, this amount in this position and so on. I can modify all the groups, the pivots and the columns, and we are not creating traffic in the network. Okay, I am sure that this is my final layout. Perfect. So in that case, we can come here and we are going to calculate, we are going to ask the backend, the database, to send me the data with only one time. So therefore, it's important to use this because, well, I am working in this server, but maybe I am not alone. There are many users using the application, the Sage application or the Nectari application. So it's a good idea to avoid to create more traffic, because, well, I am defining my layout and it's not necessary to create another request every time when we are adapting the format as I needed. Okay, this is a new feature in version 9, if you are familiar with the version 8. Okay, after that, let me show another interesting point. So by example, there are many properties. For example, in this case, in the calendar year, by doing right click here, we are going to use the prompts. This is another way how we can filter. So, okay, that's good, but in that case, I want to use a different way to filter. So by doing right click here, we are going to find several interesting options. For example, the prompts is going to give me, okay, this is another menu. That's what I am looking for, because maybe I want to filter by using 2 years. I want to see the data for 2017 and 2018 together. I don't want to see information about the 2019. Okay, so let's to select the first and the second one, and let's to confirm this selection. Perfect, is there. This is another way how we can filter the data that we can see in raw report. And as you can see here in the bottom of my screen, we have this filter, because, well, we are using that restriction, only the year contained in this list, and this list is having 2 elements, 2017 and 2019. Okay, that's perfect. So this is related with the filter. So remember, we can filter by using this line, clicking here. So you are going to find this horizontal context menu bar, where you can add filters, or you can expand. For example, you can expand all the elements contained in. So clicking here, by example, to expand this, and it's going to expand for all the first level that we are using here. Or we can collapse the presentation to be able to expand one by one if I need it. So you are going to practice, I hope. So you are going to find that there are many interesting options. By the time, it's not possible to see one by one with all the details, because, well, it's going to take more time. But here I am going to give you the main, the most important points that you can use to identify how can I identify the data that I am looking for. Okay, let me see here. Okay, in the right side, we have many options. Imagine that I need to practice a little bit with this. Okay, I am learning, so I want to apply filters and so on. So my recommendation for you is here in the save option. Here you can come here and you can create a copy. So by example, let's to click here, save as. It's going to ask me about the name. So I am going to put this V2, because this is the second version, to avoid to modify the previous one, the original one. And here we have a very interesting option to publish my job. For example, I want to share this view with another people, or maybe with another team, or maybe I don't want to share with nobody, so we can use something like that. And this is an interesting option that we can use. Look, when we are sharing, for example, with somebody else, we can assign the permission or not to be able to modify this view, because, well, I am creating this view, but I am going to give to the other people the possibility to modify it. Well, maybe yes, maybe not. Maybe we are working in teams, and, well, we need to modify it. We need to modify it one by one. Okay, that's perfect. After that, here in the owner, well, it's me, the owner. So by example, I'm starting to create this view, but after, well, my colleague is going to be the new owner. So we can define that the other person is going to be right now the second, well, the next owner for that component. What does it mean? That person is going to have all the rights to modify it and, well, to publish for somebody else. Okay, this is interesting. Another very interesting option that I need to explain you quickly is about the prompt. But what does it mean, the prompt? For example, when we are opening this view, I am going to close, I am going to save it. Okay, so every time when we are opening this view, I am going to open here. Well, it's going to send me all the data. Okay, so it's not a way to filter nothing. But what happens if I don't want to see all the data? I need to filter before to retrieve the data. So in that case, we can use this option. This is a very interesting option. Call it the selection page. I am going to explain you. For example, opening again is going to send me all the data contained in. I don't want to see that. I want to filter. I want to offer the filter for the user before to retrieve the records. So in that case, here in the save option, we are going to use this one, call it the prompt. Okay, let's to see the prompt. In that case, we are going to use the prompt, and we are going to use the prompt, for example, for the year, calendar year. Okay, so what does it mean? So far, we are assigning a prompt with this view, and let's to see the difference. So I am going to click here. Okay, perfect. And now opening again, as you can see here, before to send me the data, is asking me about the year. Okay, that's perfect, because imagine that we are using a screen to retrieve the accounts. If I don't use this option, it's going to send me all the accounts for all the fiscal year for all the companies. I don't want to see something like that. I want to be able to filter by period or by company or by year, because I don't want to see all the data for all the companies. So the idea is to provide for the final user a prompt, because in this case, selecting this, by example, this is the year. Okay, what is going to happen is going to send me the records, but only with the filter that I am using by year. Okay, this is very important, because the next time when I'm opening again this view, okay, it's going to send me this small screen. Okay, now I want to use the 2019, and it's going to give me the data related with that year. What does it mean? Before to send me the data, is going to filter, and that's good, because it's going to bring me only the data that I need and not all the data that I don't want to see. Okay, this is related with the prompt. So well, you can use it. It's very, very practical, and that's the first point. Now, well, in that case, I am using again, opening again and again and again every time this option to show you the difference, but it's not necessary to open and again the same view. So you can use the second option. This is the icon to filter. So by doing click here, it's going to send me the selection page to filter. This is another option that we can use. How is it working right now? I am going to show you. Let me give you this option. Okay, imagine that I need to filter by calendar year or by sales representative. So in that case, we are using two fields to filter. How can I apply two filters in that case? So by example, let me try to, okay, wait a second, I need to close this one. It's a little bit slow. Okay, it's there. So I am going to close some of them because I have several versions. Okay, it's there, it's there. Okay, opening the same. Well, we are using a prompt. Remember, the prompt is based in 1 year. So I am selecting this to avoid the error because it's not selecting. That's good. But imagine that I need to filter by customer. So how can I identify, how can I define that I need to use the filter by year and by customer? So here in the save options, we are going to use the second option, call it the selection page. Basically, the concept is the same. We are going to filter, but in that case, we are going to use a different selection page. For example, I am going to create a new one, call it my selection page. My selection page is there. Oh, sorry. In that selection page, we are going to use the fiscal year, for example, and the company ID. Okay, only two fields. So let's to confirm, let's to save it. Okay, that's good. And now here by example, as you can see here, we can select the selection page that we created a few seconds ago. And now we are joining my view with this selection page. Let's to confirm here. Okay, it's there. And now what happened if I try to open again my view? So by doing that, right click here. So as you can see here, is not the first screen, is not the prompt screen, now is the selection page. Why? Because I need to create a different filter. I need to filter by using several fields in that case. So by example, here we are going to select this calendar year and this company. So I don't know if we have data for all the companies. I want to select several of them. As you can see here, I am selecting several companies. We are going to create a list, and let's to confirm the selection. Okay, in that case, we don't have data, so maybe I need to select a different year. Let me try to select a different one. So here by selection, my selection page, let's to select, okay, this one, but we are going to select more and more companies. So here, until here, let's confirm. Maybe we don't have data for all the years. Okay, here we have. Okay, that's good. As you can see here, this is my fiscal year, my calendar year, but where's the company? Okay, so we can see here the company. Let's to open this one, the dimensions. Let's to verify for the company. The company ID is here, and let's to put it here. This is my calendar year, and the second level is related with the company, and after we can see the salespeople related with. So this is a very practical option. So remember, it's a good idea, it's a good practice to provide even the prompt or the selection page, because in that way, before to retrieve all the records contained in the ERP, we are going to give for the final user the possibility to filter to see only the records that they are looking for and not all the companies, all the fiscal year, all the accounts. No. The idea is to provide even the prompt or the selection page. They are the best practice before to retrieve the records to show in the screen. Okay, so that's about this nice feature. Well, remember, see, you can save it with a different version. This is my recommendation for you. For example, if you are learning, or if you want to practice, maybe you want to see a different presentation. I need to move the fields in the columns. I need to modify the groups. So you can create a different version by using the Save As. So feel free to modify your copy. The idea is to create a copy to preserve the original one. That's the idea. So you can modify any of them, create a copy, and after you can create in your copy all the modifications as you need it. Okay, so this is related with the views. Of course, there are many properties, but by time we are checking the most important of them, and well, that's the idea. We need to talk about the charts. So okay, it's right now 1 hour. So let's to take a break. It's only 3 minutes because well, we need to see more interesting topics. Let's to take only 3 minutes. I am going to look for more water, and after we are going to continue with the charts, and we are going to see the dashboard. So there are very interesting material after the break. So I am going to close the micro, and we come back in 3 minutes. Thank you. Okay, so I'm here. Let's to continue. Perfect. Okay, related with the views, obviously there are many other features. If you have time, it's a good idea to practice. As you are going to see, it's not complicated. So the important point that you need to keep in mind is here in the vertical, in the right side, in the vertical menu bar, we have the dimension and measures. What does it mean? The set of fields that we can use to group the data, or the measures that we can use to show the numbers. So basically, this is the list that we can use at any time to put more dimensions or more measures in your views, depending on your needs. Okay, this is related with the measures. For the properties, obviously, there are many properties available for you. For example, if I need to modify this presentation by using different colors, something like that. So here we have several interesting themes that you can use to modify your presentation with interesting combinations. Okay, so this is about the properties. For example, for the totals, another important point is about the total row. Well, by default, in some cases, some people need to use the total row in the bottom or in the top. So depending on your preference. So by example, here we have in the top the line for the total. In some cases, they prefer to put it in the bottom. So that's the idea. So by time, it's not possible to see all the properties, but you are going to see it's not complicated. For example, to use a different font, a different color, etc. So you can practice a little bit. It's going to be very easy to practice, to understand it. The important point, okay, here the auto refresh, this is a very important property that you need to identify. For example, as you can imagine, every time when I am opening this view, well, this screen is going to be static. For example, if I am working with this screen in the morning, after the launch, I continue, and obviously the information, the data contained in my screen is static because, well, I need to do the refresh. So here we have two options to do the refresh. So by example, imagine I am opening this and I need to do the refresh after noon. So I am going to click here. What is going to happen is going to recalculate, is going to ask in the backend to the server to send me the new data. What does it mean? Remember, from the ERP side, well, every time, every minute, or even every second, we are going to get more and more and more transactions in the ERP side. So therefore, we need to refresh here my screen to get the last data coming from the ERP tables. But I can do it automatically. So by example, as you can see, I am going to enable this, the auto refresh property, and I am going to do the refresh every 10 seconds, by example, okay? So every 10 seconds it's here. So let's to see the effect. What does it mean? Well, I can put my screen like that and working in other points, and every 10 seconds is going to activate the refresh to send me the last data, the last records coming in my ERP tables. Obviously, I need to do this one to expand, for example. In this case, and well, it's going to do the refresh and again and again and again. This is very nice, but try to use it not a lot. Why? Because as you can imagine, I am creating more traffic in the network. So please be careful with this option. If this screen is very, very important for you to start to check in the day, during the day, so you can use it. But it's not a good idea to use it in all the views, in all the models, for all the modules. Why? Because we are going to create more traffic. So please be careful by using this option. This is a very nice feature, but attention, because you are creating more traffic in the network. So we are going to use it a lot in the dashboards. Okay, right now, we need to see about the charts, because in this case, by using the charts, we are going to see a different representation for my data. So by example, I am going to use exactly this one. I am going to eliminate the filter. So here we have the 3 years. So let's collapse this section. Okay, that's good. That's perfect. Now, perfect. My boss is happy with this report, but he's asking me to put it in a graphical representation. Okay. So what can I do in that case? So in this horizontal vertical menu bar, in this option, this is the icon for the type of view. What does it mean? Well, the Nectari application is going to give me the facility to transform this view in a graphical representation. So by doing click here, you are going to find this interesting menu. So for example, we have bars, lines, pies, the normal worksheet that we are using so far, maps, even miscellaneous, scattered. Well, there are many. We have more than 100 different representation for the data. Obviously, by time it's not possible to see all of them, but here I am going to show you the most popular one to put exactly the same data in a different representation. Okay, remember, my starting point is this view. Here we have the dimensions and the measures that we need to put in my report. But now we need to change this representation in a graphical way. So I am going to take this one, the bar, and let's to use the normal one, vertical bar. Let's to see the difference. Perfect, it's nice. So as you can see here, we have the 3 years, 2017, 18, and 19. Well, in 19, we have few data, and well, this is a nice representation. But what happened? How can I see the company ID? Because that's good. Here we can compare, we can see the graphs, we can see the bars, but I want to see more details. I want, for example, to see the company ID and try to analyze the information. So in that case, for example, for the 2018, as you can see here, the first option is about the invoice cost, the invoice amount, and the invoice quantity. So this is the first one, the second one, and the third one. The third one is very, very small. base it in the numbers. The numbers between them are very different, but Nectari is trying to put it together. So therefore, this section is very, very small. But what happens if I need to analyze this section? I want to analyze the small one. Okay, so we need to modify a little bit the presentation to be able to see more with more details. So by example, I am going to turn off the invoice cost, or I am going to turn the invoice amount. So what does it mean? So by doing click here, by example, I am going to eliminate temporarily in my representation that column. Why? Because remember, the numbers between them are very different. So therefore, the application needs to prepare the scale to put the data, to put the representation, the data in this way. So even here, well, it's not possible to do a lot because the numbers are very different. So I am going to turn off invoice cost. And here we have in one section the amount that I'm looking for. This is the invoice quantity. Perfect. So in that case, it's easy to check it. So by example, I want to see more details. So in that case, I am going to click here. In this context menu bar, in this horizontal menu bar, we are going to use this option to do the drill down. What does it mean, the drill down? Remember, we are going to see in the next level in deep. So we are going to see more details. So by doing click here, now we have the company. Okay, that's good. Here we have the company. But guess what? Well, the company is using a lot of space, so it's not easy to read it. Okay, remember. So we are going to create more space here. And even, for example, in the properties for this chart, we are going to modify to see, oh, here we have 1000. Let's to put, for example, 5 elements. It's easy to analyze 5 elements at a time. And now here we can see with more details what happened in that case. Perfect. So I can identify for every company the sales. So now I want to see more and more details. For example, for this first company ID, I want to see the details for the sales representative ID. Okay, so let's to click here. We have this horizontal context menu bar, and let's to do the drill down, more details. Okay, perfect. So here I can see for this person, Emiliano Kikawambang, so the numbers. Okay, that's good. For Ireno, so here we have the numbers, and that's the idea. So as you can see, by defining the levels in the groups is the way how we are going to see more and more and more details. What happens if I need to come back in the first level? So by using this icon in this in the right side, in the bottom of my screen, in this corner, here we have this icon. We are going to come back in the previous level like that. So that's the idea. So for example, okay, this is my fiscal year, and we are going to put it like that. Okay, this is one interesting property. I am going to save this one because, well, in fact, if you remember, I am starting from the view, the view by using columns and rows to create this presentation. So I am going to use this one. I am going to save it like a different version because we are going to use it later for the dashboard. So in that case, this is my bar. This is my bar 1. And let's to save it. Remember, if I need to publish this with other people or with other team, who is going to be the owner? In that case, I don't want to put the selection page, so let's to save it like that. Okay. Perfect. Now, let's to create, well, and let me show you another property, a very interesting property that we have here in this chart. For example, what happens if I need to identify the zone? So I need to identify between, let's to see, 70 and 120. Okay, I need to identify because this is our target, for example. So here, by using the properties, we are going to use the zone. So let's to click this one. And here is in millions, so let's to put something like that, 25 millions. And we are going to use this one, by example, 75 millions. Okay, so let's to put this background color, something like that. And let's to see. Now that's good. That's very nice because in that case, imagine that here we have the sales. We can try to identify if we are near of the object or we are in which position are we related with the sales, with the production, or whatever criteria that you need to use. This is a very interesting way how we can identify the section that we need to reach in that case. So this is one property that you can use in the bars. So let me save it to show you how we can create another one. Now, by example, let's start to create from scratch a different view, because remember, we are using the first view, this view, based in the normal worksheet to create the chart. We are transforming that representation to a graphical one. But what happens if I need to create a new one from scratch? Okay, so in that case, we are going to close all of them and we are going to create a different one. Okay, here we are. After that, how can I create a new graphical representation? Remember, the important point is to identify the correct model that we are going to use to retrieve the data, because remember, if I need to create a sales report or a financial report, well, the important point is to identify the folder, the model, the data model that we are going to use. Why? Because in that case, that model is going to contain the tables related with, and well, based in the set of tables, I am going to be able to retrieve the records that I am looking for. So therefore, if I am going to create an inventory report or a financial report or a sales report, it's important to go directly in that model. Why? Because the views created here are depending on this model. Okay, so let's to create a new one. My boss is asking me to create a pie diagram or a pizza diagram for the sales or for the quantity sold about my products. So in that case, we are going to use this model to create a new view. So based in that model, we are going to retrieve the records contained in my ERP tables. So right click here at this level, sales invoice analysis, and we are going to create a new view. Okay, that's good, perfect. So my boss is asking me to create a pie diagram or a pizza diagram. Let's call it like that in some cases. So let's take this one. And here we have three options, a pie, donut, and funnel. So let's use this one, the pie, perfect. So here we are going to put a name. This is, for example, version 1, pie view version 1. And after that, we are going to use, by example, how we are going to do the drill down. So this is my personal way to do it. So I am going to use, for example, the calendar year. I am using this dimension, only one dimension to create it. And after, in the graphical menu, we are going to put more dimensions, so don't worry about that. Okay, I am going to use this one, and here I want to present by example, the invoice quantity. Okay, so we are going to use this first dimension to represent the invoice quantity for that case. So let's to confirm, and let's to click OK and confirm. Perfect. Okay, nice. My pie diagram is here. Perfect. More information. Okay, that's good. Here we have the 2019, 18, and here you have the 2017. That's good. But my boss is asking me about the information for the 2019, the past year. Okay, what's happening here? I can see only 2 years, but here in this section, we have several years. Well, I know that we don't have information for 2020 and 21, so we are going to turn off this year and this year. It's not necessary to put them because we know that we don't have information about those years. Okay, but what happened? I want to see about the 2019, but where's the color? Where's the green color? So it's very small. So let's to turn off this one and this one. And now here we can see the data related with that year. Why is not present in this option? 17 and 18, because the numbers between them are very different. So therefore, it's very difficult to do the representation about this year because the numbers are very, very different between them. So therefore, we have this property to hide those years, and we are going to be able to see this year. Okay, that's good, but it's not enough. I want to see more details about this, more details about, in this pie diagram. So by example, let's to add more dimensions. Okay, it's interesting the year, but it's not enough. I want to see more details in the time. So here, for example, we are going to add the quarter. Okay, here we have the quarter. We are going to use as well the fiscal period. That's good. In that case, I want to see about the company. So let's to see here in the organization. Here we have the company code. I want to see, for example, the customer code. Let's to put it here. For example, I want to see about the product. So here in this section, we are going to use the product ID. For example, Let's try to identify if we have the invoice number, invoice quantity, invoice cost. Okay, let's to see. Code. Let me try to see product code. Okay, so let me try to use a different one. Product customer time product. Okay, it's here. Okay, the product code is there, so it's enough. Okay, I have several levels. So why is this important? Why is important to define several levels in my graph? Okay, so because in that case, I am going to be able to see with more and more details until the level that we are looking for. Before to do that, so we are going to add more properties. For example, we are going to do the animation. Maybe we need to reverse the data. This is a very interesting property because for the accounting people, in some cases, depending on the nature of the account, some values are going to be positive or negative. But to do the representation, the graphical representation, we need to reverse the data. So this is very practical for the accounting section. The theme is going to be the same. We are going to create a specific title. So this is my first pie chart, for example. Okay. Oh, sorry. Okay, so we are going to put this name, for example. We are going to use this name. Just to put the information for the drill down. We can modify the fonts, etc., etc. So that's very easy. We are going to use the labels, or we are going to use the percentage if I need it, for example, or something like that. So as you can see here, we have many properties that we can select to give more information when we are checking this first image. So by doing that, you are going to be able to see many interesting data in your case. Okay, that's good. After that, that's good. It's nice. But again, my boss is asking me about the 2019. Okay, so let's to close this one. Let's to close this one. 2020 and 21 are not used. Okay, perfect. Here we have the information for the 2019. Now I want to see more details. Okay, this is related with the year. So by doing click here, we are going to be able to see, interesting. Now I can see the quarters. Perfect. For that year, for example, I want to analyze this one, the green section. And now with more details, the calendar period. That's good. Here we have for this period, and for this period, the period number 7, the period number 8. Let's to click here. Now, more details. Now I can see, for example, for this company. Well, in that case, we have information only for this company. Let's to see more details. Here we are going to get the customer ID. That's good, my customer ID. And now give me the information related with the product ID. Perfect. So as you can see here, I can define several groups, and I am going to be able to see with more and more details by company, by product, by category, by type of whatever product. So the idea is to add more and more dimensions, because in that case, the user is going to be able to see with more and more details the data that they are looking for. So therefore, it's very important to define properly the levels that we are going to use, because it's going to give me more and more details. Okay, this is to create a chart from scratch. So let's just save it, for example, because we are going to use it for the dashboard. Okay, this is my pie diagram. Another one. For example, what happens if I have a lot of measures? So by example, let's try to see the same view that we are using. So let's to use this one. Remember, here we have the calendar year. So let's to use several of them. And the company code. If I am going to put it empty, what does it mean? Give me all of them. Okay, it's there. So I am going to eliminate this one and this one to show you this idea. Now, what happened when we have the case where we have many measures in the view? So by example, in this case, we are going to put more measures. So for example, for the actuals, we are going to put here one. Let's to use the invoice margin, the invoice margin percentage. For example, quantity is there, yeah, is there, invoice amount is there, cost is there, yes, is there. Okay, so here we have several measures, but my boss is asking me, or my user is asking me to put this in a graphical representation. Okay, so let's just save it with a different name, because this is another version. This is going to be the version 3, for example. Okay, no year, it means give me all the years and all the companies. And here we have this one. Now we are going to add more dimensions. Usually in the real life, that is going to happen. We need to add more dimensions, more measures, because we need to put other information together. This is for the fiscal calendar year. Let's to put here the calendar period is there. And after, for example, the customer ID as usual. Customer ID. And it's enough. Okay, so let's just save it. Now, here we have several measures, and we need to put it in a graphical representation. My recommendation for you, if you are going, or if you need to put many measures in your report, so you can use this kind of representation. Here in the vertical, in the right side, my vertical menu bar, item type. In that case, I am going to use this one. This is going to be used here in the combination. We are going to use this one. Why do I need to do a combination? Because, well, by nature, here we have many dimensions. And obviously, if I try to put bars for the dimensions, it's going to be very complicated to do the representation, because we are going to see bars and bars and bars. So in that case, by using this kind of representation, as you can see, one value is here by using this orange line. Another measure in the invoice margin is a violet line. In this case, the invoice cost is using a bar. In the green section is by using the area. So what happens if I need to analyze the invoice quantity? Is in the green section. But remember, the numbers between them are very different. So therefore, we need to turn off, by example, this one, this one, this one. And now I can see with more details for that year, the period that we are looking for, and we can see more details. So by doing click here, by example, and let me try to verify if we have more details in that case. Well, this is the detail that we have for this section. Let's to put the others, for example. Let's to click here in this case. And here you are going to find that for the next level, which is the next level? I can see here. Well, the first level is the calendar year, and after here we have the period. That's interesting, because here in this section is my second level in the deep, and now we can see for every month based in that year, the values for all the measures, the invoice cost, invoice amount, quantity, etc., etc. So therefore, my recommendation for you, if you need to put many dimensions in your, many measures in your view to create a report, and after you need to put it in a graphical representation, a good idea is to use the combination, because combining more and more elements for every measure, the application is going to take a different representation to put it in a graphical way. So this is a very nice feature that you can take advantage to put it in your view. So I am going to save this one with a different name, because this is going to be used for the dashboard. This is combined. Perfect. Okay. So let's to save it. In fact, we are going to use them in the dashboard. So we are going to eliminate here the prompt, or the selection page is not necessary so far. So we are going to see all the data contained in, and that's the way how we are going to use it. Okay, it's here. Let me try to open the other one. In this case, okay, here, let me verify if we are using for this the association between this view and the selection page. Okay, we are going to eliminate the selection page. It's there. Perfect. So, okay, let's to close this one, and let's to close this one. By default, you are going to find in your installation many kind of graphics. By time, it's not possible to see one by one, but well, the idea is to practice a little bit. For example, you can create your view. Based in your view, you can start to play with, to put it in a different presentation. By example, what happens if I try to put it for the financial? Let me try to open a different one for the financial. If I try to use the waterfall, maybe it's not the perfect case, but let's try to see this representation. Okay, this is another presentation. Let's close this one. I can see more details. For the financial people, this diagram is very interesting because based in the periods, we can see the difference between them. So for example, the same idea, by doing click here, you are going to be able to see with more and more details. That's good, but it's not possible to read it. Remember, when you have something like that, you have always the possibility to come here in the general section and reduce the number of elements that you are going to see in the screen. Let's do put 5 elements. And after, okay, it's easy to read it. And here we can see with more details the transition between one concept, between one salesperson and the other one. So this is a very practical a graphic used by the financial people in that case. Okay, so let's just save it only to create a new different version. Okay, so this is waterfall. Okay, let's just save it. Okay, perfect. Now it's saved. Let's to close this one and this one. Obviously, depending on every view, you are going to have many properties to create more access, to define more values. So the invitation is to practice a little bit with that. Remember, you can create a copy and start to modify it, and you can start to play with to identify which is the presentation that you are looking for. Okay, this is about the views. We are using the normal view, the worksheet. We are using the charts. We're using the pies, for example, and that's good. But what happens if you need to put all the information together? My boss is asking me, okay, that's good, perfect, but give me one screen to identify all the elements together, because that is going to give me visibility, a very nice visibility about the business in a graphical way. Okay, so in that case, the option that we have is about the dashboards. This is the next type of object that we are going to see here in this training. For example, for the dashboards, remember, this is basically the section for the models and the views when we are creating every element. But we have here another option. This is related for the dashboard. In a similar way, here we are going to create a new folder. This is, for example, this is my folder for this month, for example. Okay, that's good. It's not well, it's only a place where we are going to put my dashboard. So by doing right click here, we are going to select the first option to create a new dashboard. Okay, the dashboard. Okay, it's here. So this is, for example, this is about the sales dashboard. Okay, perfect. Now, remember, this section is important because, well, maybe you are going to share this view with other team or with other person. In that case, it's going to be public. It's not possible to modify it. The owner, well, so far is the administrator. Remember, I can create it, and after I can assign a different owner. That person is going to have all the rights to modify it or whatever operation that they need to do in the view. It's possible to do it because the other person is going to be the owner. Prompts so far is not necessary because remember, we can put prompts or selection page. Remember, the idea when we are using views is a good practice to put the prompt or the selection page for the final user to filter before to retrieve the records that we are looking for. Okay, in my case, it's enough, and let's to create this dashboard. Okay, the dashboard is created. Well, obviously, it's empty because we are going to create a new one. By the way, for example, can you see here? Now I have 2 notifications. Why? Because even I am sharing my views with other persons. So every time when I am doing that, in a public way. So it's going to give me, okay, now this view or this report or this chart is ready for you. So this is a good example how we can identify the notifications when they are arriving in my screen. That's the idea. Okay, so we are creating a new dashboard. It's empty, and now the important point, for example, is to create something like that. Based in the elements that we created before, we are going to put it together. So by example, we are going to put here, coming from my view, this is about the worksheet, and we are going to put this element here by example. Basically, I am doing drag and drop to put all the elements that I need to put it together. So here by example, and after I am going to use this one here. Okay, and basically this is the mechanic that we are going to use to create a dashboard. As you can see here, it's very, very easy. Basically, I am reusing the previous views created. For example, I am using drag and drop for this one, and that's all. That's the mechanic to create a dashboard. But we have another method. What happened? Okay, that's good for my boss. It's okay. We are created the dashboard, but we need to put a new element. But that element doesn't exist. What does it mean? Well, it's not possible to come here and to do drag and drop. Why? Because that element is not created. Okay. So how can add a new element that is not existing? So we are going to create a new one starting from the model. Remember, the 4 elements that we have here were created starting from a copy. We are reusing the definition to create a copy in my dashboard. That's the point. But now we are going to create a new one. This is called on the fly. We are going to create a new element that is not existing right now, but we are going to create it in the fly. So right click in my process or in my model, in that case, and we are going to create a new view. Okay, that's perfect. And now we are going to take advantage to include, by example, a map. Okay, that's good. Here we have 2 options. We can use the vector maps, or we can use the map like in the Google style. The important point that you need to keep in mind is when we are using the vector map is based, for example, in the code for the country, in the code of the city, and so on. And for the map based in the Google style is based in the latitude and longitude. So if your application is having information related with the latitude and longitude, so you are going to be able to use this kind of maps. If not, well, you can use the normal vector map to put in a graphical way the distribution for the sales, for example, based in this case. Okay, so we are going to identify the states in this calendar, this map by using, by example, let me see here. For example, this is related with states. So country code state. Okay, so we are going to identify this state by using the build state code, and we are going to put here, by example, the invoice quantity or any other measure that you need to put in your representation. Okay, let's do confirm. And my map is here. So as I told you, this is a vector map. It means we are using basically the definition for the country and for the city. Here we have some properties that we can use, for example, to improve a little bit the presentation about this one. So by example, the sea, we are going to use a different color for the sea, something like that in that case. So you are going to change, you can change the theme and so on. That's only to give you an example. And now, let me try to see here. It's there. Oh, sorry, where's my vector map is created? Wait a second. Okay, so sorry, I am going to create it again because I am going to put it here. So now, to create this map on the fly here in my dashboard, we are going to do drag and drop, but not in the element. Now we are going to put it here, by example, or here, or any position that you need to put your map. So I am going to put it here. And in this case, we are going to repeat. The first option was only to show you how we are going to create it. And now we are put it in the dashboard itself. So remember here, we are going to define by states, by the state, okay, this one. And we are going to put here the quantity in the invoice. And now this element is contained here in my dashboard. So remember, basically to put the elements, we have two methods. The first one is by using drag and drop when we are going to reuse the definition for this element. We are going to do drag and drop. Basically, we are doing a copy. Once when the element is here, now we have two versions for that object. And between them, there's no communication. For example, if I modify the original one, there's no modification here in the dashboard for that element. So I need more space. For example, I need to put here maybe my map. So I am going to put it. I am going to put it in this position. Coming back here in this middle position, we are going to swap this presentation because maybe we need more space for this map, something like that. You can change this one. Or maybe we need to use this to put more space for that one. So the distribution is up to you, depending on your preference, or maybe it's not necessary to use a lot of space for the pie graph. We are going to use this one and something like that. And my dashboard is ready. So I am going to save it right now. Save dashboard version 1, because we are going to create another one. And after that, an important point, for example, is to filter. That's good because, okay, here we have a lot of information. I need to filter based on the criteria. So, for example, I want to see for year, I want to see for every year the sales or the values that we have here. So in that case, we are going to use the filters. If you remember, when we are using the normal view, we have the possibility to filter by using the year or the company. So in this case, for the dashboard, it's a little bit different. So in that case, in the dashboard properties, so here we are going to add a filter. So it's empty, no filters are used right now. So let's to create a new one based in the calendar year. For example, calendar year is here. Fiscal year. Fiscal year, fiscal period. Let me see here. Calendar year is here. Perfect. Let's to approve this one. And now, as you can see here, in the top left side, in this corner, I have my calendar. An important point when you are adding a new filter, so you need to inform that you are going to apply this filter for all the elements. But imagine it's not necessary to use the filter for the map. So I am going to exclude this element from the list of the effects. So for example, if I select a new year, for example, 2019, let's to see the behavior. As you can see here, for the elements is filtering by year, but not in the map. Why? Because in that case, it's not necessary for me to filter based in that field. So the map is going to be like that. So for example, here, and maybe I need to use more space for this one. Let me try to put it here. A little bit more. Well, it's there. I am going to save it like a second version because we are going to do something else. Version 2. Okay, is there. Why I'm creating a second version, I am going to explain you to show you a different property. Okay, this is my dashboard, but imagine, okay, that's good, but my boss is asking me for another presentation. So here in the theme, for example, let's try to see the properties. In the general section, we are going to change the theme. So let's put this metro to change the colors. Okay, this is another nice version. Or maybe we need to use something like that. That's good. This is a different presentation. So the objective to show you this property is that we can modify all the elements together here. For all the elements, we can use a similar and a standard representation for all of them together. But in some cases, imagine that I need to put this element for the map in a different theme. So even we can modify all the properties all together, or I can come here in this section, and here we have the properties for this one. Imagine, no, in this case, for this map, we want to use a different representation. Maybe we want to use the default, or based on this color for the Office 365, or maybe this one in this case. Let's try to use a different one, and let's do something like that. Okay, imagine that this is a wonderful presentation. And well, the idea is to show you that even for every element, we have the capability to modify it, to put it as I need it in a different representation, or all together we can modify the theme. So by example, in this case, or imagine I need to modify this one. I need to modify this waterfall in a different representation. Here in this icon, we can come here and let me show you. Okay, maybe I need to use this one. The same concept, but in a horizontal way. This is a different representation. So all the properties that we can use in standalone for every element can be used here in the dashboard. So this is a very practical way. So create a dashboard, as you can see, is a very easy task. The only point I need to keep in mind is, well, the elements that we are going to put inside are previously created. If not, I can create it on the fly, as we did it for the map. In that case, remember, you need to do drag and drop from the process, from the model. In that case, for the people coming from version 8, well, this is the process. Now we are calling the model, but basically it's the same space to create tables and so on. But we are going to do the drag and drop from this model to put it here in the context in the area on my dashboard. And after that, we are going to create any type of view as we need it. So let's just save this one. Okay, it's here. Save. Save as. Imagine this is going to be the version 3. That's good. And well, in some cases for the customers, they prefer to see this. Imagine this is for the CIO or another important person in the company. So in that case, we need to do the refresh for this one because, well, they are walking in the corridor. We are going to put this screen in a big TV. So in that case, it's a good idea only for this one. We are going to do the auto refresh. So by using this option, let's to put enable, and well, let's to put it here only 10 seconds like that. And well, imagine, okay, we have the big TV in the corridor or several TVs in that corridor showing different data, and every 10 seconds or the time defined is going to apply the modification. What does it mean? Walking in the corridors, the CIO or the managers can see the last transactions coming from the ERP tables now here in my dashboard. That's the idea by using this kind of features. Okay, that's good. Let me check it here. Perfect. Okay, so the idea is to have a dynamic representation for the data. So I am going to eliminate that property because I am creating more traffic in my network. It's not necessary to do that. And it's, for example, this version and this version. Okay, depending on your needs, you can use different themes, different representations. Obviously, you can put here more filters for the fiscal period for the company. And well, remember, the important point when we are using filters is to identify here that we can select the number of elements that are going to react based in that filter. So maybe it's not necessary for the map or for the others or for all the elements, so you can modify it, and that's the idea. There are other 2 or 3 properties that are very easy to use to text to add a text panel to put the title, for example, if you need it. So for example, let's do it quickly. In that case, well, we can put a text in this presentation, for example. This is dashboard. Says dashboard, for example, to put it in the middle, the presentation, put a background in that case by using. So the idea is to improve a little bit the presentation. In that case, well, the colors are not wonderful. Well, the background is going to be in blue color or something like that. So let's to use this one here. Wait a second, here is there. And well, oh, sorry. Apply this one. And well, the size, something like that. So the idea is to give you some elements that you can use to improve the presentation of your dashboards. Well, I know there's a lot of details that you can practice. We are checking the most important of them. Remember, here you have the online help. This is a very nice feature. Because remember, okay, I need to do a recapitulation about the dashboard. How can I create a dashboard? So in that case, coming here, we can start to do something like live dashboard for the end user. So here in the dashboard section, okay, here we have the dashboard. How can I create a dashboard? So all the tips that you already know are here. If you need to do a recapitulation about the properties, how can I filter, etc., etc. All the important points that we already know are here in this help. So that's the points that I prepared for you. I know there's a lot of information about the views, about the charts, about the dashboard. So here we are checking the main properties. And after, you are going to be able to create very, very nice dashboard views and reports in your Nectari application. In the next sessions, you are going to see how to create reports, because basically we are using views, we are using charts, we are using dashboard. But in the next sessions, we are going to see the section for the reports. Another option that I need to show you, for example, is about the mobile. So by example, imagine that I need to put this. How can I see this in the mobile devices? So I am going to modify a little bit this switch, because, well, I cannot show you my cell phone, for example, but here we can simulate that representation. Wait a second. So in that case, for example, as you can see here, all the screen is used for the this application. So we can go here, and obviously the interface is going to be changing. It's a different image, because we are in a different context, but the idea is exactly the same. You are going to be able to see all the same models as we did it in the web page. So this is a second modality that we can use for the to show the views in the Nectari side. The last one that I need to show you quickly is about the Excel, because we have three sections. We have the web section that we are using right now. For example, in this case, this is the web page, the normal web page. The second one is based in the mobile devices, and the third one is related with the Excel add-in. The Excel add-in is a very powerful option that I am going to show you. Wait a second, because the idea, well, in some cases, you are going to find that you need to create a report, but based in the Excel context. So in that case, how we can create an Excel report? Well, you are going to see, let me show you. This is an example that we are creating for you. You are going to be able to use it later. And the idea, for example, is to create, this is an example to create income statement. But as you can see, is based in the Excel context. Here, the way to do it is a little bit different. We can use the prompt, we can use the model, etc., etc. But the context is basically different. We can create a report in Excel context from scratch. So here we are going to combine the powerful to retrieve all the records contained in your ERP tables to put it here in the Excel context. We are going to use filter. As you can see, for example, we are filtering by in the sales for the accounts, in the cost of the sales for the accounts, and well, we are going to use extraction of the data. This is called the data extraction to be able to retrieve the records. And after, based in this account, we are going to create formulas. Obviously, Nectari formulas to be able to retrieve the amounts related with this account for this company, for this fiscal year. So we are going to be able to define all the filters. For example, let me show you. I have 2 minutes more. By example, let me go here in this exercise, because we are working to create the exercises for you. For example, okay, it's here. In the Excel context, we are going to create a section for the filters. Obviously is going to be different. Why? Because we are in the Excel context. So we are going to create drop-down lists. We are going to use the prompts, the normal prompts based in the web. We are going to use it here. And based in those values, we are going to extract the data, for example, for the company, for the fiscal year, to create a very nice report like that. So it's not complicated. The philosophy is almost the same. We are going to use a model, a data model, to retrieve the records and put it in this presentation. So remember, we have two different ways to use the Nectari. In the web is basically this option that we have here, by example. This is the web representation, or the mobile representation based in the devices, the smartphone, the tablets, or the Excel add-in based in this context. So here we have a very, very interesting ways to use the Nectari application. I know there's a lot of information we have only 2 hours, but do you have questions, by the way? By the way, as you can see here, I have 12 notifications. All the components that we are creating, for example, are here. Okay, now this is ready for you. You can use this one, you can do this one. So here we have the notifications working very fine. I am going to clean it. So you have questions so far? I know there's a lot of information. Remember, you have the online help if you need more details. Any questions so far? Okay. Let me verify. I don't see the chat here. We have the chat here. Okay. Okay. So it looks there's not questions. Well, there's a lot of material, of course. So my invitation for you is to go here in the online site to see more details if you need it, if you need to do a recapitulation. And remember, basically, we are reading the data coming from your ERP tables, so you can take any view, you can take any model, define it here. You can create a copy and start to play with, to modify colors, to modify the layout, to add more dimensions, more measures. That's the best way to learn Nectari. It's not complicated. Once when you are going to be able to create the first view, so it's going to be very easy to create another one based in your knowledge by doing the first one. It's not complicated. So my invitation for you is take your time, create a copy of your view, and where you can modify it to avoid to lose the original one. And well, the online site is going to be for you all the time. Or well, you can send us an email if you have specific questions, and that's the important point to keep in mind. By my side, I want to thank you for your attention. Thanks for coming. Tomorrow and the rest of the days, other trainers are going to be with you. For me, it has been a pleasure to be in this first session. And thank you very much. And please enjoy your afternoon. Thanks. Okay. Let me check it. Okay, wait a second. Question. Okay, I have here for a okay, so I don't see more text in that case. So thank you very much. And well, wait a second. Here we have some questions. Wait a second here. Yes, in that case, well, the question is about the Excel add-in. Yes, of course, the version 8 is as well having an Excel add-in. The only point you need to install in your PC, the client for the to connect with the server. This is called the Excel add-in, and after you are going to be able to connect with the Excel add-in. Yes, you can use it as well in version 8. Okay, let me try to verify here. After that, let me try to verify here something else. Well, if you don't have questions, so thank you very much for coming. Thanks for watching. And well, we are going to continue with the other trainers in the next days. Thank you very much and have a very nice afternoon. Bye.